All right, thank you for joining us for the September meeting of the Pedestrian and Bicycle Advisory Council Committee. It's been a couple months since we've met, so thank you all for joining. I'm going to paste some information in the chat. As a reminder, closed captioning is available on the desktop version of Microsoft Teams. To enable closed captioning, click the three dots at the top of the window and click Turn on Live Captions. Unfortunately, caption is not available for the web browser of Teams. I'm also going to paste the agenda in the chat. There we go. And I will start it off with a call to order. If you could just note your presence or not. We'll start with Aaron Artiaga. Anna Baliakova. Mitchell Henke.
Present.
Montavious Jones. Kathleen Minnick.
Present.
Ben Teal.
Present.
Barry Weber.
Present.
There's Anna, actually. Let me get her on here. Is she in? All right, Anna, is that you?
Yep. Good morning.
Good morning. Stephen Owen.
Here.
And Monica Walker-Smith.
Present.
All right, we have 7 voting members, 5 are present, 2 are not, so we do have a quorum this month. We were noting this prior to joining here that there are currently 2 vacancies for the voting members, so Mitch and Barry will work to fill those soon. We've had a little bit of interest, so hopefully we can get those filled. And we still have a vacancy for the public safety representative, but we do have a quorum today, so we can move forward as planned. We'll start with the approval of the, there's Aaron as well. That's good. Hey, good morning, Aaron. Is that you?
Yeah.
Morning, Aaron. Thank you for joining. All right, so we'll move forward with the approval of the, so we actually have the June 21st, 2024 and the July 19th, 2024 meeting minutes that I sent around. The July meeting did not have quorum, so the June meeting minutes were not approved. Did you all have a chance to review? And if so, is there a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
I'll second it. Kathy.
Minutes are approved. So we have a few discussion items today. I just want to make sure we have the right folks online for these before we get started.
Just for clarity, that's for both June and July.
Sorry, yes, June and July, I assume, right?
Yeah, I'm just.
Okay. All right, so we have a few discussion items where we have some folks joining just to listen in and provide some input today. The first discussion on painting utility conflicts in bike lanes. I think we have Nick Goodwin. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Awesome. Nick, you want to just introduce yourself quickly?
I'm Nick Goodwin. I'm the bridge maintenance manager, but I have a lot of different tradesmen under me, including painters, which we use for a variety of things, not just bridges.
And then Chad Chrisbaum.
Yeah, good morning, Chad Chrisbaum. I'm the engineer in charge of infrastructure, transportation infrastructure, which is basically all the streets from design through maintenance.
So yeah, we have a couple folks, and then myself and Donnie as well are interested in listening, on the design side, and Stephen as well, and then obviously the maintenance side as well, just to kind of hear what y'all are thinking. I don't think any firm decisions will be made today necessarily, but it'd just be good to kind of hear what y'all are seeing and hearing from other folks. So Mitch, take it away.
Yeah, thank you. I think Barry brought this up initially, but I think the primary concern is they're particularly deep manholes or like other water utility things. And sometimes I think cell phone ones, I forget what they are, but
Yeah, like on a personal note, like I mean, I think I mentioned this every time I'm here, how much I love, like, say, the protected bike lanes that are on Highland Avenue right now, connecting with Valete. But that's an example of where the bike lanes themselves are lovely. There's a lot of, I think they're water drains mainly right around there. So unless, I know for me riding those, like now at this point I know where they are, but even the first few days to weeks of riding, there'd always be a part where, you know, my bike would hit one of those drains unforeseen and, you know, kind of feel that in my bones. But yeah, like I ride the Walnut Street protected bike lanes a lot too, the ones further east. And there's some unmarked drains that way too. I know that I've seen sometimes drains that are highlighted yellow, I think, if they're gas. But that was, I know,
Blue as well.
yeah,
Or
okay.
water.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I know sometimes paint can wear off, but it always seems kind of inconsistent.
Are you talking about the inlets that are directly adjacent to the vertical face of the curb?
Not the sewer grades, no.
No, not the
Okay.
grates, just like,
Okay.
what are they like?
But what, the water
6-inch
valve,
diameter?
water valve.
Okay,
Well,
yeah.
when you said drain, it confused me. So, okay.
Oh, no problem.
Are these circular, about 5 inches in diameter?
Yeah.
You're talking about? Got it.
There are the larger manholes too, I think, that are sometimes a few.
I'm thinking of the larger manholes on West Lincoln in the bike lane between First and Fourth.
Okay.
Those are exceptionally deep below the surface of the street. A good 3 or 4 inches, I would guess.
My video cut out for the last like 20 seconds and sound. Can you repeat what was just said?
Yeah, we were just talking about so water valves being one issue. It's kind of the 5 or 6 inch diameter water valves. Many streets. Thirty-fifth to Valete was a high impact paving. And then obviously there's like the reconstruction projects, which I don't think there's any current reconstruction projects with protected bike lanes at street level. I think that we have to raise bike lanes, but is there like different work that happens with utilities depending on the scope of work, Chad? Like a high impact paving versus a reconstruction?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, clearly, if we're changing the surface of the roadway, we're then adjusting the, elevation of the whatever facility it is we're talking about to match the new roadway grade. If you're doing just paint and posts, then everything should remain the same as it was before. I mean, I guess what you're saying here is that on those streets where you're in a protected bike lane, you just don't have a lot of options to ride around some of this stuff, right? So it was there before, it's still there after the project. But, prior to the project, you had the ability to ride around a lot of it, and now you have less ability to do that because you're inside a protected bike lane with only so much room.
Do we ever
but yeah.
do we adjust utilities with high impact or no?
Covers, yep. We bring them up to grade.
Okay.
It usually just involves, adding a couple rings into the manhole structure and bringing the lids back flush with the new pavement. That's the stuff out in the middle of the street. On the outsides, we generally match because that overlay then just feathers down to virtually nothing out towards the outsides of the roadway near the curb flange. But so it varies. Some of them get adjusted, some of them don't, just depending on, the new grade of the road.
So with a high impact, the manholes should be adjusted.
They should be, yes.
Okay. So if there are some that aren't, and if people notice that, they should let us know.
Yeah, of course, the problem is going back to adjust them after the project is, cutting into the pavement again. So we try to get all that stuff ahead of time, but.
What about water valves?
Again, most of those would probably be out towards the edge of the pavement. I think they're probably matching a lot of those and not adjusting them, but some of them might be adjusted. Again, there's a pretty intricate coordination process that happens. Unfortunately, there's just so many utilities that things end up getting missed sometimes. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, I would
So
say
it's-
it's something that we've noticed just in the, planning and design side too, like when we're not repaving a street, when we're putting in protected bike lanes, we're now putting bike lanes where previously cars were parked. So, the bike lane is getting put in a spot where typically we're not paying attention to the pavement,
So
right? So it's like, we need to be mindful of the pavement condition and any utilities that are in that parking lane as well.
And so are you saying that like the utilities were located there intentionally to be out of the way or no?
No, not necessarily. It's just something you don't really think about or notice because it's under parked cars, right? Or in a space that most people aren't traveling in. Where now with the bike lane being there, I think, maybe we do need to think about the utilities a little bit more on the edge of the pavement.
I'm guessing you're getting at the ideal being placing them in, if there is a parking lane there, in the parking lane versus a travel lane. Is that what you're saying?
Go right when they have.
Yeah.
Right, there's obviously limitations, right?
Like Walnut Street too, I know like as soon as that bike lane went in over the parking lane essentially. There's a lot of utilities going, hey, look at this space, it's a lot easier for us to get in and out of versus tearing up your roadway.
Yeah.
And so they see that as a better spot to go a lot of times too. And that might just mean that there's a manhole in the middle of the bikeway too. Maybe we do have to put a white ring around it or something as in our planning when we do something of that scale.
Like to paint highlighted or something.
We could do that. Put it out, it costs too much to.
Is there a way that we could get manhole covers and valves highlighted in some way until they can be raised to meet the street level? Spray painting the circumference of the.
You want to go up there yourself, see.
Nice.
Here we go.
well, I mean, the simple fact of the matter is on a 30,000 foot view is we don't even have enough resources to repaint crosswalks and such that,
Yeah.
that are much, much higher in the, hierarchy of importance. So it would be difficult. It's something that obviously we're talking about now since we saw this on the agenda, but it's going to be pretty difficult to do it with any regularity. Only because, again, like I said, just the resources
Mhm.
just aren't there. I mean, both from staffing levels and budget dollars. It's not something that's super expensive, but it does take time and away from what are the higher priority things that the painters are doing. And that is, well, Nick's got all the short lines, so he's got the crosswalks. And as we continue to add high visibility crosswalks, those are, harder to get done and so on and so forth. So we'll continue to have the discussion internally here about what, we may or may not be able to do, but it's going to be pretty difficult.
Yeah, I can appreciate that, and I definitely don't question the priority there.
Yeah. I'm just wondering too, I don't know, Nick, you might have an opinion on this. Would the paint make it, depends really, make it slipperier? It could, some of the larger lids could be, that might be a little bit hazardous to paint them. I don't know. I don't know if the paint would adhere even necessarily.
I mean, we could find a way to make the paint to adhere, but it could make it slipperier on that surface.
We'll have to continue to discuss this. I'm not real sure yet what could or can't be done.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I wasn't even thinking that. And again, I don't know what's possible or not, but I was thinking, and I don't know what you all were thinking. Like, I wasn't necessarily thinking painting the actual cover, but like around
Around it, yeah.
Call it out, that's all you're really doing.
Yeah.
That's what they do for like racing too, somebody goes out a day at a time and just literally spray paints a yellow mark in front of it, like, hey, look, there's something here.
I think that's what County Parks is doing for like sinkholes on the Oakley.
Instead of fixing.
I mean,
Big trail.
anything that gives a rider a heads up to like expect to swerve or grip the handlebars.
Yeah, there was a more official kind of, I guess, striping of sorts on the 6th Street Bridge. I forget what they're called.
the bridge joint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a pretty decent gap there, and that was added, which is
Yeah,
that, and that
my painters did add that.
Yeah.
yeah, and that was excellent. And I think that's kind of what we're getting at is where there's potential hazards, like outlining them so people can see it ahead of time if like in cases where the project has already been done and it's not straightforward to raise whatever the hazard is up to the grade.
Thank you for doing that, Nick. I almost died there a few years ago.
So what designates a hazard? Are we talking a 1-inch depression? Are we talking a 1/2-inch depression? I mean, what's the, if it's a flush cover, I guess we would assume it's okay, but if there's a, differentiation in elevation, right, between the pavement and but how much? Like, what is the cutoff? I don't know.
That's a good question.
I mean, it would be different for every rider. Realistically, anything more than 2 inches, you should call out for sure.
That's
for 2 inches? Yeah, I mean, 2 inches? Should be, we should be out there probably adjusting that manhole. If we have locations like that, I mean, I'm thinking though that you're talking about,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good to know, because I was wondering what the kind of acceptable range was. So within an inch, is that 1.5 inches? Is that what you're saying is normal?
I don't know. I guess I'm asking,
I guess like you riding over it, what would you think?
Well, it's hard to say without.
Yeah, I wouldn't know offhand, but I'm curious, like when you're like setting it to grade, like what would be acceptable for you, like assuming the job is done. If it's more than 2 inches, that sounds like that would be too much. Is an inch like you would look at that and be like, that's good enough? Or
well, I mean, some of these jobs they taper in they taper in the asphalt into the lid, so there's a elevation difference, but it's kind of over a distance, right? So it's not as abrupt of a. But I mean, if you're talking about a lid that's actually sunk, that's a whole different story. I mean,
So what should people do if they come across something that is pretty substantial, sunk, not tapered in? Should they report that to 286 City? Should they email?
Well, that's the question. Where can we compile this information? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if 286 City is the right.
Is there there's probably not
Something
something.
that too, because I know on Second Street there's that bad spot right where you turn into MMSD that like.
Oh, yeah.
The city fixed our manhole there, but there's 2 other manholes there that all the pavement's ripped up around their manholes.
Yeah.
Like we all move around them and everything, so.
Yeah.
So like that's just it. Like for the city, we'll come up and fix
Yeah,
it
like
like
intersection.
286, but I don't know what the other utilities come to fix their stuff.
Well, that's a good question too, Chad. I don't know, like differences between city utilities versus private utilities.
Yeah, you get into private utilities, then you're talking about permits in James's section.
Okay.
I don't know. Again, I think we need to have some more internal conversations about how we may be able to handle these or not, and the logistics of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think at least for me, like leaving the priority and what's possible to you all, but I think a way to report it would be helpful so that people can describe kind of the depth or whatever it might be. Does that seem reasonable to people?
Yeah, I mean, I know, Ben, you've sent a couple of examples, but if you could resend them, just so we could have something to look at. And
Yeah, I just sent you a one. I
Awesome.
mistakenly labeled it to your city email just now as water drain. I meant water valve.
Okay,
Like
cool.
one just here on Kilbourne, like a block away.
Yeah, just so we could have folks in different responsibilities kind of take a look and see kind of what it looks like and what's possible. That would be helpful.
Yeah, and to kind of go back, I mean, I hadn't considered like, just all involving already with the grading and such. Like my immediate reactionary thought was just kind of like what we were talking about, even just a little strip of yellow paint around it or something, or some color paint to highlight. If there's any kind of depression there from a valve, et cetera. So, thank you all for this. This is great to know, but basically whatever works for sure. I'm down for.
I guess the other one that's related that I assume is private are they like telephone or like fiber or something, like the little like holes that are filled in sometimes with like gravel or something?
Oh, that's usually a pothole. Like you say, utilities going out there to see where their utilities are at and getting the ground, their depth, that kind of stuff.
Oh.
Back in, yeah.
The potholes should be filled back in with the material that the road is covered with, unless they were given, unless we have a roadway project coming up, you know, within like a year, and they were given some sort of a pass on that in the interim. So if he's, I'm pretty sure they're either supposed to be, you know, concrete or asphalt. Again, unless there's a job coming within a couple months. So.
Okay. Good to know. I'll make a note of those too.
We could look into those as well if there's some areas where they've been that way for a while, right? So.
Sure. Did any other committee members have questions on that? Or anybody from DPW have anything else they wanted to add? Otherwise, I mean, that is, I think, for us, or anybody listening to report, if you see significant dips around utilities in bike lanes or roadways.
I think just for the time being, if you want, if for anyone on the committee or anyone on the call, if you want to send them to Mitch or myself, just so we can get a handful of examples and the location too, obviously, not just the picture, like an address or an intersection.
You being move at Milwaukee.
Yeah, move at Milwaukee.gov or to Mitch, and then we'll compile and we'll discuss internally and report back. If not next month, shortly thereafter. Sometimes it's hard to get things scheduled and discussed that quickly, but we'll definitely report back.
All right, Ben, there's our assignment.
Nick, anything else on your end or any other thoughts you have?
I'll stay tuned on what I'm told to do, but basically kind of what Chad was saying is that, you know, we have over 1,200 intersections that we paint crosswalks, and we have far more work than we can actually complete in a year. And every year more crosswalks get added to our list. The complexity of the crosswalks are increasing with the bars, the continental crosswalks instead of the transverse. So, and they're not giving me any more staff. So any additional thing, I'm like, yeah, we can do it, but this is what we're sacrificing to do these new items. A little less of this, a little less of this, and then we'll add some more of this. So that's just something to keep in mind for anything.
Or we'll have to just discuss an internal hierarchy, which at this point, these would kind of be towards the bottom. Obviously, the crosswalks are a huge liability for the city. I mean, we have to, you know, we have to maintain those markings. So, but we'll continue to have the discussion.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we understand the problem now, I think, a little bit better. So.
And I think it's something we'll just want to keep, you know, maybe do a better job of keeping an eye on contractors too, to making sure things are happening as they should, just if you know, things are slipping through in other ways. So this is good to highlight.
And if it's that big of a problem where there's something that dangerous, it should probably just be repaired instead of painted.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, if you guys are talking about a 2-inch
2 or 3 inch
drop off, I mean, we need to know about those, like, right away. That's that's not acceptable.
Yeah.
So
Sure. The ones I was thinking of were just, I mean, really just very slight. So like maybe half an inch, but enough where you can still feel it when you ride over it.
There definitely are some bigger, bigger ones out.
Sure.
Nick,
Right.
when you guys did the 6th Street Bridge, was that just like hand painted?
Yeah, I think they might have just even took a roller.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I appreciate that, all of that. I appreciate the crosswalks being painted. This is very useful to me, better understanding for sure. Was there anybody else that had anything they wanted to ask? Otherwise, we can move on to the next item, I think. Cool. Thank you, Chad. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right. What are we on? Item 5, discussion on painting curbs and no parking areas.
This was something that we discussed earlier this year or last year.
I don't recall.
Kevin Hughes was here.
Was Kevin here? Okay. Real quick, is Eldrick on the call by chance? Or Anita Martinez or Kristen Hensley by chance? I don't know if we have the people we need.
It was last year, exactly a year ago.
Well, I don't think we have our parking enforcement folks here. Unfortunately, they were invited, so I apologize about that. If you all want to just kind of at a high level, obviously without them here, we can't provide too much info, but I did get, just when I sent the email out to our parking enforcement folks, just one item to note in email that was provided, I'll just read it off here, is back in 2017 as part of a project which began, or back in 2017, parking was asked if Compete Milwaukee staff could be used for curb painting. Parking enforcement had a staff member train the Compete Milwaukee staff on how to paint the curbs and transported them to the site locations at intersections where there are a high number of complaints or citations issued. The project ended sometime in 2019, however. And Compete Milwaukee, Chad, is that the summer youth program? Do you recall? Do you know?
Yeah, we get some of those employees as well in street maintenance,
Okay.
but not recently.
Okay, so yeah, that was several years back that they did something, but if y'all want to just provide any thoughts or comments,
Yeah, I
we
mean,
can share them with parking.
Yeah, brought up last year because I had noticed that there were curbs that had been painted, but were pretty significantly faded, and was asked, and that was kind of the genesis of the discussion. And it all kind of made sense because that program ended, so obviously curbs weren't getting painted or
Progress back. Yeah.
Um,
But Nick, do you have any insights on this? Are you involved at all? I'm only looking still there and unmuted.
Not really. I think Eldrick might be on the call now because I requested him to join the meeting via.
Oh, you did. Eldrick, are you here?
Yes, good morning, everyone.
Oh, hey, good morning. Thank you for joining.
Morning.
But as far as insights for me, we haven't done really any of the curb painting. Also, we haven't even really done median noses because we just are basically doing the crosswalks and stop bars, and sometimes the lettering like the onlys and arrows, but not very often on that either. And sometimes we touch up speed humps.
We just saw that happening out in the wild recently, so thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so Eldrick, just for a little background for you, I just read off the tidbit that Tom Wozniak provided regarding Compete Milwaukee from 2017 to 2019. And then the committee is just kind of sharing their thoughts on the issue. I don't know if Mitch or Barry or anyone else on the committee wants to add more background.
and yeah, the impression that I got, because I think Tom Wozniak was here for one of the meetings to discuss it, was that it was helpful to have in locations where they had high complaints or high rates of parking violations. And like, that is my primary interest. Like, if the painting isn't useful because it's not an issue frequently, like, that makes sense. But if it's useful in certain places, like, that would be neat to have, right? Obviously, amongst priorities. But that's kind of where I was.
Eldrick, do you have any background or information to share on current kind of where things stand, current practices, if any?
Well, currently, I can attest that we have not been painting any curbs. It was just something that we kind of took on at that time. We do not have the staff currently, nor the equipment to be able to do this currently.
That being said, I think we would all agree that we do like them painted. So it continues to be a topic of discussion.
Is that something that's part of projects generally?
Good question. Yeah.
When we do a project, yeah, sure. I mean, when we do a new full scale project, we'll paint them. Sure. Yeah.
Every corner, or just no parking?
Well, I mean, wherever they're warranted via the the MUTCD direction.
Fire hydrants. I'm not familiar.
Yeah, hydrants. No parking corner clearances.
Hydrants. I don't know if we paint them at hydrants, but Well, I should, you got to qualify the project too. If we're doing a reconstruction project, a new road, they're going to be all painted, right? So, but if we're doing an overlay, I mean, the type of pavement markings that are in an overlay are preformed plastic. It's not paint. So we don't even have paint on that type of job, an asphalt overlay. So they don't get painted as part of an asphalt overlay. But on a full reconstruction project, we would have all those curbs painted new, yeah. Medians and areas where no parking is.
But it's
So,
somewhat.
I mean, that's only about a third of the projects, to put it in perspective.
Somewhat related, but different. One thing that we've been doing with our scooter parking corrals is we've been trying to place them in no parking corner clearance areas to kind of like daylight the intersection so that people can't park in that space, which we find effective and helpful.
What does no parking corner clearance mean? Is that any corner? Or
Thank you. Was it city ordinances, no parking within 15 feet of a crosswalk?
so that would be any
State board.
State statute, yeah.
So that'd be any corner.
Any crosswalk.
Okay.
Yep.
It's not a specific kind, like if there's an intersection.
As long as there's a marked or unmarked crosswalk,
Yes.
yeah. Which is the vast majority of corners, not all, but the vast majority.
Hearing about the lack of available resources to paint as much as perhaps we want, is this something that could ever be pitched by, say, a neighborhood group? Like if they wanted to reach out to DPW about, hey, if you could show us what paint to buy, we can get some interested neighbors to do this particular curb.
That's come up now a couple times recently. We've had other inquiries as well. I think that's something we'll probably have to discuss internally, right, Chad?
Yeah, I mean, we had people trying to paint bike lanes a couple of years ago, right? So
And speed humps recently.
Like pour speed humps or paint?
Painting the speed humps.
I mean, to be clear, we understand there's a problem here, but
yeah.
I mean, again, we have to prioritize our resources where we feel we have the highest liability, right? So
Sure.
I mean, I think that's a discussion we'd probably, the speed hump chevron painting just came up very recently. We got an inquiry. I don't know. We'd have to discuss internally. It's probably city attorney's office would want to be involved in that discussion as well. One concern we have with that, and this isn't a reason necessarily to say no, but obviously that can be, there can be some equity concerns there about, different neighborhoods getting things done and others not. But the flip side of that is then maybe that frees up city resources to do things in other parts of the city where we typically haven't. So I think it's, there's a lot of liability questions, whatnot, but it's come up several times recently. So I think it's worth a further conversation internally.
I mean, the curbs are less of a liability for us with respect to the type of paint you're using, so on and so forth. And if you're painting down on the street, right?
Yep.
Because skid resistance, so on and so forth. However, I could see neighborhoods, including my own, taking liberties with how far they painted that yellow curb. So who's gonna police it, right? Who's gonna inspect it? I mean, it's like, oh, it's painted. Now what do we do? Like, oops, we went too far, right? It's like, okay.
What's that school up on Howell? They have like yellow lines up on the sidewalk side of there.
Which school?
Montessori.
Oh, down by Humboldt Park.
Yes, but north of that.
Anyway. The curbs painted yellow or the?
Like, there's a line on the sidewalk away from the curb. And I assume it wasn't DPW.
Okay. I'm sure there's situations or instances out there where people have painted bins on their own without us knowing. But yeah, I think that's definitely something we should probably, and I know Kevin, we've been on emails recently with Kevin too. We should have a position on that one way or another and just lay out, either the reasons why, yes, you can do it and what you need to do, or the reasons why, no, we can't officially give you the go ahead to do that. But that's good idea.
Okay, so I guess that is something that we should wait to hear back from, because there are similar things, whether it's the plaza program or?
Yeah, I guess we do have Paint the Pavement, which is a kind of a permitted and reviewed process where we know what's happening and what type of paint is being used.
Right.
Um,
So there's some prior.
And to the point about like liability, we require the road to be closed when that goes in. So that's one other
Yeah.
consideration with community groups, you know, working in the road is just safety of being in the road while painted. I mean, there's other things too, but it can be really cumbersome, as plenty of people on this call know,
Mhm.
to have to close the road every time you do a project, an art project.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, just as an aside, I was thinking of, I live in Concordia, and nearby on 27th and Highland, near West Side Partners had hosted a Paint the Pavement project grant. I think the plastic bollards, is that the word for them? Were already in. But yeah, still, I know it was like a community oriented thing.
Yes, that was completed through a grant that the city got funded by the Bloomberg Philanthropies.
Okay.
So we work closely with West Side Partners
Sure.
to complete that project.
And that also still went through the permit process.
Still went through the permit process,
Sure.
even though we were a partner on the project. And since the road was already closed and we were a partner, closing that road before the project happened, it was, still easier to install than some others that are being
Yeah.
driven over.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of what I was just, I think, hunting for in my question of, what could still be a process and could still have some reputable groups where like we would, and maybe start there before we just say, hey, anyone who's got a can of paint, if you want to do this, just call this number or something, right? But thank you.
All right. Anything else? Eldrick, anything else to add on your end?
No, I do not have anything else to add. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for joining.
If it's straightforward to do a mini paint the pavement, or I don't know. I assume there are neighborhood groups that would be interested in potentially doing it.
Yeah, the discussion around painting speed humps, the chevrons on the speed humps started, well, it maybe didn't start, but
Somebody started it.
the Paint the Pavement program was brought into that as like, can painting speed humps be added to it?
Oh,
Which the Paint the Pavement program, the intent is really about like beautifying and creating like a neighborhood focused art installation, not like maintenance of art infrastructure. So, I don't think that's the intent. I don't think we want to go that direction. And like, if we went in any direction of like permitting, it would probably be something different, but
right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
To me. Any other questions, comments from committee members or DPW? Cool. Thank you, DPW folks, again for giving us the information and answering questions. Appreciate it. We can move on to the next item, which I think is
miscellaneous bike ped or traffic safety.
Yeah,
project.
this was something, because there have been obviously a lot of projects started or not started and schedules have changed. And so if DPW had any big update,
Yeah.
this is what that was for.
Yeah, we have a lot of updates, so I'll run through a couple. I mean, we can answer questions. If anyone has any questions about any specific projects, please raise your hand or chime in and let us know. But first, I guess I'd start with a couple newer ways to track the work that we're doing. One is the protected bikeways map that was released earlier this summer. That's continuously being updated with any planned or funded or under construction or completed project. I think we're up to 45-ish miles now with the recent grant awards that we've gotten on Center Street.
Almost 46.
Almost 46. All right, perfect. And then there's the new DPW infrastructure map as well, which shows all projects currently in kind of planning, design, or construction happening this year.
Is it officially launched?
Yeah,
Oh,
I can
nice.
drop it in the chat if I find it here quickly. And there's like something over 280, 290 projects. And that's all projects.
Sewer stuff.
Yeah, everything happening
Lighting
in the public right of way that I think is just public. I don't know if there's private work on there. But 289 projects are currently shown, and that's also constantly being updated as things change. So definitely check out those resources. Just drop the DPW infrastructure map in the chat. So Kyle might be, if you could link to the bikeways map, that'd be great. So really good resources to kind of keep tabs on what's happening and where things stand. In terms of projects themselves, this person in NEB, they're in. A lot of work happening, as you all know. Van Buren, two-way protected bike lane work is substantially complete north of Kilbourne. There's still some minor work happening.
Wisconsin, or no,
North of Kilbourne, and then going south from Kilbourne to Wisconsin, that work is now underway, which includes a two-way conversion and continuing the protected bikeway south to Wells Street. As I'm sure some of you know, there were some challenges initially with folks parking in the bike lanes, which is, quite honestly to be expected with any new project. And we have seen pretty substantial improvements. We actually added yellow delineator posts in the middle of the two-way bike lane, which is something we hadn't done previously.
like at the entrance, right?
Yeah, every intersection entrance, and then at some driveways as well, which has helped. Those will have to come out in the winter before snow flies. We'll keep them in as long as we can, but our hope and our thought is, typically it takes, anywhere from 1 week to 3 months or more to kind of get the adjustments that are needed. And come winter, hopefully everyone kind of knows what's going on out there. But overall, we've been pretty happy with results. The Wells Street reconstruction project right outside City Hall here is continuing east, which includes raised bike lanes that'll connect to Van Buren. Another Howard is another major reconstruction, as is Lake Drive, that are both under construction. Both include protected bikeways. Howard will have raised bike lanes. Lake Drive will be at street level. Several other just resurfacing projects that also have pedestrian improvements that maybe aren't on the radar, like some of the bikeway projects, Locust Street, near I-43, 20th Street, near roughly center-ish and going north and south of there. And then Hampton, near 35th, going east and west of there, I believe, all include curb extensions and some bus boarding islands. And most of that work is actually wrapping up. The Washington Scott Bike Boulevard, the long-awaited Washington Scott Bike Boulevard, is finally under construction, substantially complete. There's still some speed humps that need to go in, I believe, but that's from 1st to 20th on Washington, and then 20th to Layton on Scott Street.
27th.
Yeah, 27th Layton Boulevard. Yep.
Just
Another something new that we haven't done much of is the raised crosswalks that are being installed throughout the city. And I don't know if anyone's seen those or have any thoughts on them.
one by Humboldt.
The Humboldt Park one was the first that I believe that went in last fall, right? But now there's at least 10 others, possibly more.
One by Lincoln Avenue School.
Yep.
I've seen how that's been really effective.
Yep.
Right around there.
18th and Lincoln, roughly.
Yeah, 18th and 19th and Lincoln.
52nd and Center, 35th and Roar, Holton and Chambers, 15th and Mitchell, King and Galena. And, I think they've, startled some folks. They're pretty, substantial in terms of traffic calming on busier streets, which is, something we hadn't done previously, installing kind of vertical traffic calming on streets that are not just purely residential. So,
They're gentler than the speed humps, though.
Generally, yes. Yep.
That's how fast you're going.
There's that one with the spikes on it. Yeah.
I saw a driver get air on the
Molten.
the crossing outside the Humboldt School.
Really?
Yeah.
The Washington Scott is that supposed to be done this year? I saw the traffic circles were already in there.
Traffic circles, curb extensions, speed humps, that should all be done this year. Yep.
I know it's a little too late. I just want to go on the record. I have a concern about the Washington Scott Boulevard. It appears that the sharrows were painted in the door zone.
Okay.
And so they just seemed a little too far right when I wrote it yesterday.
It's actually a bigger question because I've noticed that it's usually like right aligned-ish, like offset to the right rather than like in the center.
Yeah, I've had,
Ways.
in the past, I've had drivers confront me through their open windows and say that I should be riding exactly in line with how the Sharrow chevrons are painted. I think it's a NACTO standard that they be painted out of the door zone. I'm not positive on that.
There's an MUTCD thing too.
Given how large some doors are, especially on
Yeah.
pickup trucks, it's concerning to me that a bike boulevard has Sharrows painted in the door zone.
Well, and so a couple things on that. One, we'll check the plans to make sure that they're installed per plan. They on a bike boulevard, they're really intended more so as like wayfinding than anything.
And I do like how they're angled.
Yeah, like at the
Wayfinding. Those
turns.
are awesome. I'm very happy to see that.
I mean, generally like shared lane markings aren't something we're doing, right? Like we wouldn't do it on standalone projects.
Right.
It's really meant for wayfinding, but we should check to see where they're positioned.
I know a lot of novice riders think that you're supposed to ride exactly in line with
Yeah.
the Sharrows, and so I'm concerned that someone new to biking would get on Washington Scott and think that that's where they're supposed to ride.
Which is one of the reasons too, historically to install shared lane markings is like, they should tell you where to ride, but yeah, we'll check those.
Thanks.
Let's see.
What about Pleasant? Did you mention Pleasant?
Pleasant and Walnut, the extension going east. So last year work went to Velar Phillips. This year it now goes to Water Street. Also substantial change at King Drive and Walnut. I guess that's where Walnut and Pleasant change. The slip lane on the southwest corner was removed, and there's a Chad, there's a bioswale going in there, right? Do you recall? But are you still there, Chad? Maybe not.
I just came back, Mike. What are you talking about?
The southwest slip lane at King and Walnut. Is there a bioswale going in there? The large.
If it's not a bioswale, it's some sort of greenery, I think. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yes.
Yeah. Yes, that's a big change, big improvement there.
Yeah.
Some raised bike lane going through that corner as well.
Yeah, I wrote it yesterday.
Few projects that have been that we're awaiting construction on. The 20th Street and Beer Line Trail project probably won't go to construction this year, but it will go to construction at some point. Oklahoma Avenue multimodal improvement project from 27th to 6th. We're working through final contracting documents, and again, unsure of. At this point in the year, we're unsure if anything else new will start or not, but that'll move forward. There's some improvements near 20th and Morgan as part of a TID down there that'll have some pedestrian improvements.
That's great.
I guess Zach and Isabel, the Hank Aaron State Trail improvements that y'all initiated. I don't know if one or both of you want to provide an update on those.
Isabel may have the most up-to-date information on that one. I'm thinking. Is that right, Isabel?
Yeah, as far as the pavement markings go, they should be all completed for the Hank Aaron State Trail crossing improvements.
What were they?
So that was at 76th Street,
32nd and
32nd.
25th?
then the roundabout at 25th. Yeah.
And then we also made some last minute improvements to 6th, right, Isabel?
That's right, the crosswalk on 6th and Canal.
Yeah. And then we are still working to get some of the pinned on curb extensions into, right? Is that true on 76?
Yes, those are coming as part of a separate project, but yes, those are still coming too.
Is the hope for that by the end of the year?
That's the hope, yes,
Okay.
right?
Yes, as far as I know, though, those are still coming this year. I haven't heard anything different.
The curb extensions are near the trail crossing or elsewhere in some of these things?
They're at the trail crossing, right, Isabel?
Yes, at the trail crossing, yes.
Yeah.
That's the 4-lane.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, no, that's awesome.
So yeah, thank you to you all for kind of initiating that. And Angela, we saw your note there. Thank you for all you do on the Hank Aaron.
Yeah,
Um,
it was actually on my notes to like check about 76th Street possibilities. So glad to hear that you guys were able to get some pavement markings and plan to get the curb extensions in. We just had somebody that was, that's one of the worst crossings on the trail in terms of people paying attention that it's a trail crossing. And the only other thing that I was trying to think of was whether or not it'd be possible to look into doing the flashing beacons on the trail crossing signs. I think the curb extensions will definitely help to slow down the vehicles and make them more aware.
Specifically
But-
at 76. Is that what you're?
Yeah,
I mean, that's the one where when it gets into West Dallas, it's 2 lanes, one in each
Yeah.
direction, right? And that's less than a mile away.
No, I mean, I think
Not
even
less,
like a block or two, right? Yeah. Yep.
yeah, and DOT
Yeah, we-
didn't, last
That would
time
be
I checked, it didn't sound like they had any plans in the near future to like be doing any roadway work. Because in my mind, I'm always like, it seems like it should be able to just be extended as single lane in both directions a little bit farther to provide like an actual bike lane.
That'd be
But-
great.
But yeah, that's not anywhere in the near future in terms of any repaving projects or anything on their end. So, if you guys have any ideas, regarding maybe getting those like flashing beacons or any thoughts on that, I'd like to hear them. There's a possibility I could try to see if our friends group could maybe help fund the placement of them, because I know the trail crossing signs are, like they're not ours. So.
I assume there aren't any active plans for it, but reducing it to 1 lane up to the trail crossing, similar to this.
Yeah, no current plans. I know that's come up several times. And I think it's, at a high level, it's on our radar, but no, nothing kind of in the works right now. Angela, we are not installing a lot of flashing beacons at this point, mostly due to funding. But it's again something that's come up on a few other locations, and something that I think we'll be discussing over the winter if there's an opportunity to install at a couple key locations in the next, in the coming years here. So that we'll add that to our list of potential locations.
Well, that's what I'm wondering about, like, if there's a general cost estimate that maybe could be provided. I think our friends group potentially would be interested in looking at covering the cost. So like I have a meeting with them next week. They rescheduled it from earlier this week, but it was one of the items that I was going to bring up as a possible grant application item
Cool.
for them.
I mean, if there's funding available, obviously that would help. We would just want to look at the location to make sure it's appropriate and whatnot, which, we can absolutely do.
Okay.
Isabel and Zach, I know that there were also new warning signs that were going to be installed. Have those been installed yet, or are those still in the process?
Yeah, those are part of the project, is updating the signage around all of those crossing locations. That's part of, we've kind of folded that into some other the sign work we're doing across the city, and it hasn't been installed yet to my knowledge, but it is in the next month or so should be installed.
Thank you.
All of that's great to hear.
Oh, really quick, the wayfinding signs too, or do those need a little bit more time?
It's part of the wayfinding sign project as well.
Oh, okay, great.
That's all of that is good to hear.
Yeah, a couple others. I don't know. I'll let others chime in if they're interested. Is Marissa still here? Marissa, I don't know if there's any updates you want to share on safe routes to parks or Michigan Street or any other projects.
Yeah, Michigan Street and Safe Routes to Transit, we're both looking at construction this spring. Finishing up the contracts, documents, final touches, bidding, all of that process so that it can be ready to go in the spring. I think that's the main one recently.
The water.
Michigan is 8th. Is it 8th to water? Is that the western limit?
We extended just paint all the way to 10th, but the concrete work is just to 8th. And water's the eastern edge, yes.
I mean, all of these projects, again, they have project websites. They're on our, tracking sites in one fashion or another.
Engage.milwaukee.gov.
Thank you. Absolutely. Let's see. Danya, do you want to give an update on mobility plan that's coming up soon, hopefully?
Yeah, the mobility plan has not started despite our hopes for this year. So at this point, it looks like potentially in the winter we'll be kicking off community engagement, which I think is actually a good time to have kind of discussion-based engagement about overall transportation and mobility in the city. Yeah, we're working on contracting and right now for that still. So that's the main update. It'll be really great when it kicks off, and we'll definitely warrant a bigger discussion here about the scope of the work.
Yeah.
And then the only other, unless anyone else has anything, Zach, if you want to provide an update on the South Powerline Trail feasibility study, which there's some cool things happening down there, mostly with the city of Greenfield, some in the city of Milwaukee, but then we're also doing some work on our end.
Yeah, so we've kicked off the start of the South Powerline Trail feasibility study, which includes 2 corridors. That you can check out the project website on the Engage. Well, actually, it's not the project website isn't quite up yet. There's 2 corridors. One of them is basically along 894, mostly in West Dallas, also portions in Milwaukee and Greenfield, and then the other portion we're looking at is extending east from they actually just, I believe yesterday, they just opened the second phase to the public of the Powerline Trail that goes through Greenfield and Milwaukee. There was a portion that was built last year and then another portion that was built this year. So that's now open, and this other part we're looking at is extending east from there to the lake. And so we are there's going to be a kind of a key kind of stakeholder group of the kind of agencies and stuff involved that we're going to be working with. But then we're also going to be opening kind of public comments and stuff on the website soon, which, as I mentioned, the website isn't quite up yet, but that will be something that will in the next month or so. Some of that stuff will be public and available for people to comment on. But pretty exciting project and a lot of interesting opportunities for new trails through there. Yeah, Kathleen.
Hi, I was just wondering, I didn't hear the official announcement. I did notice that a lot of it was open for the Powerline Trail, but are they gonna have an official announcement so that everyone knows about it?
That is a good question. I do not know if the city of Greenfield is planning an official announcement. Yep, the city of Greenfield it's kind of their project. I don't know if they're going to have.
I see. Okay, thank you.
But the trail is now there had been barriers and stuff kind of saying trail is closed, and those are all gone, and the trail is now open. So yeah.
Awesome.
How many miles would that be to go east from 35th?
And just to be clear, yeah, so the work we're doing is at this point purely a feasibility study. There's some, very simple work that could happen in the future, and then there's some very, very challenging areas as well. Also including Greenfield and the city of St. Francis that we're working with. So Zach, I don't know, the question was how many miles is that to the lake? Do you know off the top of your head? It's a good
Yeah, it's several miles. I can get a quick number for you. 1 second here. It's about
2+3.
It's about 4 miles actually. Yeah.
And 3 in the city.
Feasibility obviously is part of it, but the ideal would be to get it to the Oakley.
Yes, that's the plan, all the way to the Oakley. Yep.
And there may be some of that may include on-street segments, basically like east of 794. There's some sections there where there's some real major challenges with crossing rail type. There's just a lot of re-energies infrastructure in there that can make it challenging and stuff. So there might be some portions of that on street, but a majority of it, a large majority of it, will be an off-street trail through those corridors.
Zach, will we be able to learn more about the plans to cross 27th Street in the next month or so when the project website goes live? Or is that something that we should hold off on thinking about?
That is definitely one of the bigger challenges of the feasibility study in general. And so I don't think there will be. I think that's something that the plan will be looking into for sure, and it can be a part of the public comments and stuff like that. Definitely, it's probably not something that we'll have like here's what we're thinking of in the next month or so. That's like going to be one of the big kind of deliverables of the project is of the feasibility study is going to be looking at we're really identifying all these areas where there's a major challenge, and then going to be presenting some options. Like that's what that's kind of the end result of the study is like here are the options and the preferred options.
Thank you.
Isabel, any design projects I missed that you feel are worthy of an update?
I could just mention that there's going to be some improvements made to like the Kilbourne protected bike lanes, that it's going to be happening quickly now. I think construction is going to start up in October. So we're just kind of hardening up some of the bike lanes on Kilbourne that are right now just paint and post, adding some concrete to that.
Sorry, is that east or west Kilbourne?
A little of both. It's 6 to Water Street.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. So East Kilbourne from Jackson to Van Buren. That's not part of that project. Is that something else?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. Just wanted to be clear. It's been a while since I've thought about that.
Go ahead,
Yes.
Isabel. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So that is a project that we're also looking at. That won't be happening this year, but we do want to improve those bike lanes as well. But
And then
that's
also,
not part of this specific project.
And then also extend that east to Prospect.
Correct.
Which is the TID.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that design is picking up as well.
Cool. And so the construction this year is going to be walnut style concrete in the like parking area, separated mostly, I assume.
Yeah, that's correct. Similar to what's seen on Walnut, 12th to 2nd.
Yeah, awesome. One project that's always on everybody's mind.
What's that?
KK River Trail connections.
KK River Trail Connections is finalizing design. That's on me at this point, which is never a good thing. Hopefully going to construction next spring.
That's great. Cool.
Yeah.
It'll be a big personally.
Say it.
And just real quick, yeah, so that's still moving forward. And all these projects we mentioned, they're all funded differently and different processes. So KK River Trail, Safe Routes to Transit that Marissa mentioned, and a few others are federally funded, which takes a lot longer to go through a process and approvals. Michigan Street, the Kilbourne projects we just talked about, several others are locally funded, which things can happen much quicker. TID, we consider TID kind of local funded, but yeah, that can all happen much quicker. And then I just want to note here, Chad did put in the chat that the slip lane at MLK and Walnut does include a bioswale that's already been installed, so that should be out there. Chad, since everyone else had a chance, anything you want to add, or are we good? And
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else, Mike.
And if anyone, I mean, these are all, projects that, again, there's information available online, but if the committee ever wants to hear more and let a deep dive in any of these, just let us know. We can always add, agenda items specific to a project.
Yeah, no, I think it's great to hear. And this is on the city's map and everything, so I think it's much easier to visualize all of these across the city that way.
Yeah. The last thing I'll note, I guess, is we just had a press release. We've been very fortunate and very lucky to have been receiving several very large federal infrastructure bill grants. So obviously, several, but the three most prominent reconstruction projects, Villard Avenue, design should be starting soon. 6th Street will be starting design we're working through the grants agreement still with the feds, but that design will pick up next year at some point. And then we were just awarded the $31 million total, 25 fed for Center Street. It was a mile and a quarter, mile and a half of Center Street. I can't remember the exact distance, but yeah, we've been very fortunate.
Projects.
Very fortunate to receive that type of money to do those projects.
National Ave, is that some years away still? Or?
National Avenue is 26 construction start. Far west.
Oh, it starts west.
We have split up into different stages.
Yeah.
Start from far west end, I think, until to 27th Street or just beyond that. And the second phase will pick up in 27, 28.
Is design done?
It's almost there.
A year and a half-ish. A lot of big projects. Yeah. A lot of big grants, a lot of good stuff going on. Appreciate all of it. Did any committee members or members of the have questions?
You let Sean and Jake, either of them have their all week, so.
Did you say my name? Sorry, we're late. Just popping in, seeing what's up.
I think we were getting a little feedback.
So everyone's muted.
But no, if there's no questions on any of the projects specifically or anything discussed on this item, I think we can move on. I appreciate the update.
Cool.
Looking forward to all the projects in their various states.
Yeah, I just wanted to pipe in saying thanks for all the updates. It's really exciting to see all these projects moving forward.
You bet. Thank you all.
So move into work groups. I know target improvements we had talked about striping stuff and the utility hazards and things. I don't think there's much more to add there. Is there anything else Kathy, you wanted to add on stuff we'd emailed about?
No.
Cool. The projects work group meet at all? Have anything to share?
We do not meet.
Yeah, it's you, Montavious, and it's what about policies? I think I want to say the parking state, like the legislative package thing to the state was, I think that happened.
Yes. I haven't been involved, but I saw an email go around. I think they went through public safety and health this week, maybe, or last week, very recent.
Last week.
Yes.
Yeah.
Was that last week?
Yeah.
Cool.
We did not meet, but I'm sending out a reschedule. We did not meet on my account.
Cool. Well, I think we can move into new business. I guess one thing I wanted to talk about is that membership or potential members. If anybody knows anybody that is interested, please forward them along to me and Barry. We don't make the nominations, but we can work with the mayor's office or Mike or whichever committee chair is responsible for doing the nomination to make that happen. We have 2 open seats currently. Was there anything else on new business that we wanted to discuss next month? Can't see that.
I don't know if this is the best time to talk about this, but you and I were talking briefly about detours for the bridge closures. Is that something that we should talk about or can? I guess Kilbourne is right now, but the big one would be the KK Bridge, finding a bike detour for it.
And that is between Maple and Beecher.
Probably.
Is it, and the detour is, I assume, First Street?
So I sent it around, yeah, let me find.
That's September 30th to October 4th. Sorry, Mitch, I should have brought this up to you sooner. It slipped my mind.
So the bridge closures all have planned and marked detours. They're mode agnostic. The suggested routing and signage appeared to be good for bikes. If there's any feedback, let us know and we can share it with our bridge group. But the KK detour was Beecher to First to Maple and vice versa. So, or went up to Mitchell, yeah, which is a signalized intersection. But yeah, with the trail there, maybe there's.
Will it be open at Maple View?
There should, yeah, we should have.
Cross Maple?
Yes, yep. The crossing at Maple will remain open.
Cool. Sorry, Mike, I should have brought this.
No, that's
brought
fine.
this up sooner.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was emailed, so, but. And then there's the 6th Street as well, and that, I don't know when that's happening, but there's a.
6th is September 23rd to 30th. I'm not sure that it would really impact a whole lot of bike traffic as much as KK or Kilbourne.
The 6th Street detour.
Canal to
Ember to Michigan.
Okay.
Those are all only a weekish long.
At most, I believe.
Mike, is the one for 6th Street, is that posted anywhere?
Is the detour posted or the?
Yeah, like information about that detour.
I'm not sure. Let me reach out to our bridge folks. I can connect you with the bridge folks, maybe, just to make sure that you have all the up-to-date information.
Yeah, that way we can make sure that our trail users are aware. We're currently running into a slight issue on Canal Street right now. But I have a meeting with James, and it's We Energies, but it's about, I think, a different aspect of what they're working on. But they don't have an actual detour established for work that they're doing on Canal Street right now for cyclists. I drove by it and randomly saw that that the trail was closed like earlier last week. And yeah. We have some discussions on how this is being handled to come up, but any advance notice for detour routes that may impact our users will be appreciated.
Yeah, I'll copy you in an email.
Again, more spitballing on this, but I know, and Ben, this is like when me and Kathy were talking about just like reporting some things and all that. And we were talking about the city Milwaukee mobile app, which is again, like I found a lot of it to be just really great to use. I called in a whole bunch of broken glass and debris on Walnut, and that got cleaned up, I think, within a day. But we kind of just, again, as we were discussing, like, is there a way to, as a main link or something, have some more easier for bike infrastructure to click on? I don't know if that's worthy of a discussion just yet, or bringing in anyone who's want to talk about how this app is laid out.
I think we can add it as new business, potentially discussed.
Sure.
next month.
So
Not
what's
an
the-
urgent matter,
the
but an idea.
one sentence, so just
Finding.
updates to Milwaukee mobile app or bike related
Having a
reporting
a
issue.
line item for bike issues, that would be really handy.
Okay, yeah,
There are so many different options, you have to, filter through them until you find something.
Yeah, essentially the press zero to speak with an operator, and you know you're going to get service, but like, where do you go? Yeah.
Just real quick, what was the closure on the Hank Aaron? Angela?
Right now, it's east of Ember Lane.
Mhm.
We Energy they actually ended up calling me earlier this week before I heard anything back from James, but they are doing some utility relocation, and they weren't sure if they were going to be able to effectively bore under a lot of areas. It turns out that they can't. So in many of the sections, they're going to be cutting through the trail. And in discussions with him, I said, is it just this section? Like, how long is this work planned for? He said it's a 45-day project. And it's extending from, it's going to be going all the way over to like Potawatomi Circle. The construction coordinator for We Energies sent me some pictures of the work area. He didn't even realize that the trail extended past Ember, going west. Right now they're in front of Twisted Fisherman, and they have the street knocked down to one lane of traffic on both, or like single lane traffic, and are working from like the middle of Canal Street up until the building at Twisted Fisherman. And he was like, he goes, I realized in the permit that it says that we needed to have a detour established. And I don't think we have room for one aside from like the cyclists just riding in the single lane construction zone.
Okay, and do you know that, I guess. at least
Sounds
short
like you should cancel their permit.
Like, I don't get privy to
hold
any
up to
of
the
that.
standards.
Like,
If they
I
can't
don't,
hold up to the standards, this is the same thing we see downtown. They want to block the sidewalk. They don't, I mean, how do we hold them accountable?
yeah. And on my end, I didn't even know this was going on. I went down to headquarters for a different meeting and looked, I don't always drive down to 6th Street unless I'm going from like, Hank or headquarters over to Lakeshore. And so I'm like, okay, I was just at the intersection and I was like, that looks like the trail's closed. So immediately like got in the office and I was like, hey, James, do you know why the trail's closed east of Ember Lane? He was like, I'll look into it.
Do you know how far past Ember it goes at the moment?
They are,
Like, you said up
I
to
mean,
Potawatomi-ish?
yeah, so they, let me pull up the aerial so I can give other references other than,
Yeah, I was just trying to understand.
Wait, no,
so that
what
people be like 16th.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So they're currently, where they had to cut out sections of trail is currently in front of Twisted Fisherman. They did reach out to the owner of Twisted Fisherman to see if potentially he would allow them to like have cyclists go through their parking lot and kind of behind their facility and reconnect. Because he has kind of like a little, I guess it's kind of like a sidewalk on the west side of his property. That if a couple storage containers were removed would have been accessible, but yeah, he wasn't too keen on that. He's We Energy said he's a nice guy, but doesn't want to have like the liability concern of his property being used as a detour. Because yeah, it just happens to be like right before there's any possibility of shifting people to the south side of Canal. I know that's, width-wise, that's a legit sidewalk and not multi-use, but yeah, it's still at the section where there's kind of the rail tracks that connect.
Sure. It's good to know. Ben?
Angela, does that mean that the Sigma loop is also closed to the Hank Aaron? Would that serve as a detour, a bypass to the canal?
It is not right now. I want to follow up when I have the meeting on Tuesday, either with James or I'm hoping one of the We Energies people on there can send me the electronic plan files, because what's useful for me is not necessarily what got sent over from like pictures of a folded up plan set. So they're going to be doing this work, kind of extending to 25th or like closer to 25th. And so there's going to be various sections of the trail that are going to be impacted throughout the entire project.
Okay.
Over the next 45-ish days.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So potentially the Sigma loop and the other loop could optimistically become our detour?
Possibly if there's, yeah, like if there's sections that they end up removing during that. He made it sound like it was going to be a lot of areas that they need to cut through. When I mentioned that Hank goes legitimately the entire length of Canal. So.
Yeah, okay.
And you said you're talking with James on this?
Yeah, we have a meeting already on Tuesday regarding We Energies having concerns about infrastructure safety, and wanting to put something up to permanently block vehicles from being able to crash into their like transformer site that's on Canal. And since all of those people are on that meeting anyway, I just want to kind of pull them in afterwards to discuss this. Because to me, this is not okay, and I feel like it's a lack of communication for something that has a lot of impact on a section of trail that is in the worst condition, and that I've had to put in funding request for $600,000 into our biennium budget request for to fix. So it's
fix it while they're there.
Right.
Well, that's what I like. If I had known about this going into it, I would have said, can we just ask We Energies to mill and overlay it while they're at it? Let them dig through as many times as they want, fill it in, and repave it.
I think that's electrical stuff over here by this pothole. No.
Angela, is the DNR still planning to resurface the canal segment next year? Or
we're still looking for other funding options. But it is included in our 25-27 biennium budget request. That's one of my projects that has not been kicked back. So, yeah.
Hey,
Oh, go ahead.
sorry. Angela, as an aside too, with you mentioned the wall that or something of that effect, barrier that We Energies is hoping for with their transformer site. I'm thinking of where that is on the trail and how that's really like there's that fire hydrant not too far away. That's a really narrow part of the trail as it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't see it as feasible unless they do something completely different with the roadway in that section. So like I'm open to hearing what options they have. I understand their concerns. We went through it a little bit prior to the RNC. But you know, we need a thorough connection, and if we're going to continue having these issues on Canal Street, or if it's something that, you know, because our easement is non-exclusive, that the city ultimately moves forward with allowing, then we need to be exploring other ways to make sure that we have a through connection for Hank. Long term, that's not going to be impacted like this.
Perhaps it's something for like either the policy or projects group. I mean, maybe just a bigger discussion around Canal and the Hank is warranted.
Like the future?
Yeah,
Or,
well,
like,
near term and kind of midterm as well.
and like, you mean, like, put it on Canal Street? I'm not,
I don't want it on the street.
Oh, it's just a long
Yeah.
cover.
okay, sure, yeah, we can, yeah.
But
we
maybe
can-
it's not Canal Street. Maybe it's going up to, you know, if St. Paul ends up getting redone at some point, that it does some alternate route if we're gonna have issues like this. So
Yeah, Jake, you have your hand up?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, Angela, did you guys, DNR got a lot of money in the redistribution funding for this fiscal year 24. Did you know about that? Are you able to get any of that?
Parks doesn't, because Parks is self-funded.
Okay.
Buy your park stickers.
Yeah. My second thing is, this is really disappointing. I'm sorry for kind of jumping in before interrupting, but the continual lack of disregard of this key piece of like trail infrastructure from the state fair, from the We Energies, is extremely disrespectful to the process, the plan, the system, the people. And I would say hold their permit until they can provide things that they have said and under contract to do, and stop letting them just get away with it. Like this is I feel like this is every year, and this has been every time. And it's really, really frustrating because no one that I ever talk to seems to care or do anything or even hear us when we issue this, you know. And it's just, if we're closing the Hank Aaron Trail feels like every other month for long periods of time, like, what are we doing? You know, I don't know why this trail is so challenging.
I don't, well, part of it is that like DNR is not the underlying owner of the section that's along Canal Street. So those permits are all issued by city. And so, you know, sometimes I get notified of it in advance, sometimes I don't.
Okay, so maybe this is a question for Mike, who at the city issues those permits?
I don't know. Let's have a discussion next month about the Hank Aaron State Trail and permitting and issues, because we don't have the right people in the room.
I agree.
I just need a name.
I don't know.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Jake. But
share the frustration.
Yeah.
But thank you, Angela, for all you do.
We have bike trip planned out that.
Yeah, once I figure out what this is going to look like, and if we can find alternate detour routes and how long it's all going to be, then we'll get messaging out to our trail users. But right now, like it's possible that there are sections that are opened back up. It's like a day-to-day thing is what that guy made it sound like. So, but I'm hoping that I'll have more details after Tuesday so that we can get that information out to our trail users. So at least.
Great. Well, we can plan on following up next month, because it sounds like it'll still be going on next month. So hopefully we'll have more information.
Yep.
And I'll reach out, Angela, when you talk to James, if you want to bring me to start into the conversation, we'll make sure we have everyone in the room.
Okay.
I think we can move into events and announcements. I know offhand that I guess Mike can probably speak better to it, but the Bubbler Bash is next week,
Tuesday night,
At
5
Wheel and
to
Sprocket?
7:30 at Wheel and Sprocket. Yep. Come on out, support your nonprofit bike share provider. There's a good silent auction this year, some cool city related things, tour of the bell tower at City Hall, a ride along with the snowplow operator during a snowstorm, and a bike ride with Twitter famous Kevin Muse, city engineer, to talk about all things infrastructure in Milwaukee. So, thank you, Kyle.
The other thing I was asked to mention, or Jake, are you still there? North Ave, closures.
I am still here.
Did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, I had Joey at the East Side bid reach out because they want to try and be, they're very supportive of the infrastructure changes that have been going on there, and they want to make sure everyone knows about them, that there's feedback. They are concerned that, and I think that this is something the city should explore maybe at another meeting, so an agenda, how we can better support businesses during construction, how construction can be done faster, and how specifically bike and ped access, and this kind of maybe goes to some of that permitting issues, can be maintained and safe and get people walking and biking to these businesses kind of while construction is going on. So I think some of those things, I don't know if they all fall on the bike ped committee or if that's marketing or business relations or who, but I think that can range from things like keeping biking and ped access easy, safe, and available during construction, which is actually something required by law already, and they should be holding accountable for to the construction companies. And just anything we can do to, again, promote people walking and biking to these places, especially during construction. So it was, they just want kind of as much support and help because they are trying to do what they can in their power to make that section better.
Right, North Ave has some improvements to the bike lanes and bus, I think, infrastructure as well.
Correct, bus boarding islands.
But that's over the next month and a half or so.
It's construction's just started this week. I think by Thanksgiving it should wrap up.
We're keeping an eye on it for relating to Rampage too.
Oh yeah. No, that's a good idea. Thank you, Jake. Again, I think maybe one of the subcommittees could kind of pursue that a little bit further, just to make sure we have a good discussion as a group here in a future meeting. I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I agree. There any other events?
Jessica noted or asked, could local orgs do bike walk cash mobs? I don't know what that is in construction zones.
I mean, like organize something where we all go on a day and spend money, right? I mean, yeah, that's something that we're thinking of doing. It just feels like here's another thing now I have to do with no funding. So it's a good idea and I agree with it. But I think just if there was a more
I don't think we're putting. I don't want to speak on behalf of Jessica. I don't think it's all on the bike then. I think just any local organization, even the East Side.
No, I know. I'm just speaking for myself. Saying.
Yep.
Saying, yeah.
And then Mary Beth noted part of that is in communications too. The North Avenue updates include car traffic is closed eastbound, but didn't include if sidewalks, bike lanes, or buses were available or detours. So
I was curious, is the bus still running?
We'll check on that. We should have information on all of that.
Other events or announcements?
Yeah. I just wanted to give everyone a heads up that Milwaukee Rec hosts some community bike rides and that are free. And if you have anyone who's completely new to biking, there's an intro to biking class that's free next Saturday. and it's going to be followed by a bike maintenance class.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Cool.
Or quickly, next week, we'll have critical mass as we do every month. This month, September 27th, 6 p.m. we'll roll out from Red Arrow Park. Anybody else? Mary Beth?
Thank you.
Yeah, I will hop in. I can send the specifics on to you, Mitch, to share with the committee, but I have two like walk roll experiences and discussions coming up. Still working on them, but in collaboration with Independence First. The first is going to be with students who are visually impaired and talking at Atkinson Library. Neither of these are going to be like huge public events, but you know, if folks on the committee are interested, or of course staff are more than welcome to join. The second will be tending to be on Highland with the goal of talking about the pros and cons of some of the, you know, kind of changes we're making. So lots of pros that we're making, also lots of challenges for folks who have visual impairments or other mobility impairments too. So just kind of having a like productive conversation about how can we improve things. What are the, you know, for someone like me who doesn't have those impairments, what am I missing when I advocate for changes? So I can send those to a long, like I said, not huge like public events, but happy to have the committee join if you're interested.
Yeah, you could email those to me, that'd be great.
Anything else?
Not hearing anything else, I would hear a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
Second, Kathy.
Happy?
Thank you. All right.
No, hearing no objections. Have a good weekend, everybody.
We'll see y'all October 18th.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks all. It's an audience.
I don't know. I just noticed that.